So Kareem, when I first got into video editing, I primarily used Final Cut Pro on my MacBook. And that was my tool. That is exactly what I used for content creation because I'm a marketing consultant and content creator, so I work with clients on their digital marketing strategies and editing their content. So the MacBook was my product of choice, right? It was a great computer, and it still is a great computer, and it was a fantastic tool for me to do videos. And then there came a shift where I got the iPad Pro, the first iPad Pro that Apple announced, which at the time still was very limited by its software. It was still iOS, back in the day. And yeah, there was an Apple Pencil and stuff, but there wasn't a whole lot you could do. It pretty much was just a bigger iPhone at the time. And it wasn't that much different from the iPad Air or the other iPads. But lately over the years, like you've seen, there's the iPad Pro and the iPad Air, I guess, as well.
And the Mini.
And the Mini. And they've gotten so freaking powerful now.
Yeah.
And there's so many cool things you can do with the amount of applications that are on it. iPad OS has also become a lot more advanced and powerful. So I decided, you know what, let's start working on the iPad. And because I'm also a graphic designer, so a lot of what I would create would make sense to do on an iPad. It would be easier with the Apple Pencil and just the touchscreen experience overall. So I remember back in 2018 when Apple introduced the first all-screen iPad with the new edgier design, and it was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it. Until this day, we still have pretty much the same exact design. Yeah, it's become a lot thinner and lighter with the new M4 iPad Pro, but it's pretty much the same form factor, right? And I love it. I can't complain. And I use the 13-inch model because I use my iPad as primarily a computer now. And I've been using LumaFusion. So I would always use Final Cut Pro before, but because there was no Final Cut Pro at the time, I started using LumaFusion. I've gotten so used to it that now it's become my editing software of choice.
Yeah.
I still use Final Cut Pro on my Mac here and there, but LumaFusion is the way to go. Now there's Final Cut Pro on the iPad, which I use as well. But anyways, I want to kind of circle back. We can talk more about the software and its capabilities later. I know you're a big fan of the MacBook, and you just got the new, M3 MacBook
I did.
Pro. So let me ask you, what do you do in terms of content creation, and why do you think the MacBook Pro is your laptop of choice?
Absolutely. So I am a very picky and particular editor when it comes to photo and video. When I shoot something, I have the vision in mind. I'm shooting it while thinking about the edit because I know how I'm shooting it, and I know what I'm looking for and what I want to create when I take the picture or record the video. There are certain things I do inside Mac OS that iPad can't offer. Now, do I wish iPad had those features? Of course, because that's huge. It's a tandem OLED display. It's a beautiful display. Not saying this isn't, but the fact that you just you were able to do it, take the screen off and walk away. I want that to be for Mac. Like I want this beautiful device with my HDMI port, my SD card reader, my Thunderbolt ports. I want to be able to take this screen off and go take it somewhere else. Or when I'm showing a customer something at work, I don't want to take this whole thing. So if I could just take it off, that'd be amazing. But these applications aren't available on iPad OS, such as photo editing softwares like Evoto, what's it called? Evoto, and like Lightroom and Photoshop are available on iPad OS, but they're not the full version. Same with Final Cut Pro. There are certain things that certain different ways to edit on the iPad that I don't like. It takes too long for me. I don't like that when you use the trackpad, instead of a click, it's like a round dot. I don't think you can change that. That's one of the worst things for me. It bothers me so much. Now, I do like the iPad, but for editing, creating, it takes me so much longer to create this content on the iPad, and I'm like, why would I try to edit on here when I know I have one of these? Okay. I have a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and I love the device, the screen, the keyboard, the speakers. It's amazing, but 16-inch is pretty big. So when the new iPad was announced, I was actually waiting for this, and I thought, when the new iPad comes out, if it's good enough, I'm going to sell my M1 iPad and get the new one. When I saw what this was, I wasn't impressed.
Why is that? Why were you not impressed?
Dude, because the Mac has a great screen. Okay, it's not dual LED. Okay. But this is a liquid retina XDR display, whatever it is. It's good enough. I can reach 1600 nits of brightness on here.
Okay.
I don't know what the max brightness is on that.
2000. 2000, everyone. 2000.
Okay. It's 14-inch.
Okay.
But okay. Wasn't impressed, man, because at the same time, like, if you do this to the screen, doesn't your keyboard go up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that also bothers me because I'm always moving around wherever I'm sitting
Yeah.
if it's on my lap.
Yeah.
And I'm the type that I'll probably do this and not notice, and then either I'll catch it falling or it will fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the Apple Pencil to me is not that big of a benefit. I bought Procreate, I think it was $10. It was a very fun app to use to pass time, but it's not something I used to edit. I tried it. Actually, before I traded in my iPad, I opened Lightroom, I started editing a photo, and I tried one photo edit on the iPad with the pencil. And man, the experience was terrible. I did not
Really?
like it.
Okay.
I do a lot of AI editing to
Okay,
my
yeah.
photos in Lightroom and Evoto and Topaz. So when I'm using those features, I don't like using the pencil. It's not fast enough. And
Yeah.
maybe it would have been faster in the M4, but I never cared to try it out.
So I will say this, there's this big thing about Apple really promoting the M4 chip on the new iPad Pro, right? And as exciting as it was when there were rumors and speculation that the new iPad Pro might get the M4 chip, I was excited. But to go back to your point, I don't care too much about the M4 chip because
Yeah.
I've used the M1 iPad Pro, the M2 iPad Pro. I don't think the processing power, the speed that this device can handle has ever been an issue, right? So I don't think that using this is going to give you better capabilities or faster capabilities that are way more advanced than the previous iPads, right? But to your point, I can see the frustration because you're mentioning a few things that are limitations for you, right? And I've been talking to a lot of people, including my wife, for an example. She loves this iPad. She gets so
Wow.
jealous when I'm at a coffee shop and I'm just taking this out to read a book. And when I want to
man.
get some
I
serious
am
work
too.
done, I just put it back on the Magic Keyboard. So she really likes that workflow of mine. And I think the most important thing for her is that she's doing coding and programming.
Wow.
And unfortunately, the software that she utilizes, it's not available on the iPad. So she has to, that's the
Yeah.
only reason that she's on the Mac. Now, if those coding and programming apps that she uses or programs that she uses ever trickle down to the iPad, she would jump in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But I think it's those few limitations for everybody, right? For you with your photography and your videography stuff, it's those few limitations that are kind of stopping you from jumping on the iPad. For my wife, it's the coding and programming capabilities. But then you have someone like me, right?
Yeah.
And I have completely, been using this as my main computer. It has replaced my 16-inch MacBook Pro, the M3.
Yeah.
And because I think it really comes down to what you're using the iPad for or any computer for, right? Like, for an example, I know content creators like me who have also gone full in on the iPad experience. Because if you're trying to do short form video editing or you're trying to do video editing for YouTube, right? You may not necessarily need the most advanced softwares, right? Like LumaFusion is not an advanced software by any means, but it's a great video editing software. And I've done an entire video talking about my iPad Pro workflow, which you can, click on the link above or in the description below to check that video out. I go over all the applications, right? For example, I use this app by GoDaddy called Studio to create my thumbnails. And
I saw that video. It was amazing.
Thank you so much. And it's so cool how with the Apple Pencil, I could be masking things, I can get what I want out of this, right? Now, what's interesting is that those same applications are not available for the MacBook, right? You don't have Studio by GoDaddy on there. If you do, I think you have to use the web experience.
Yeah.
There's also another application I use called Captions, which allows you to get nice captions on your videos and animations and transitions and sound effects for short form video that I edit. And it's much better to do on an iPad than on a Mac because it's more of that mobile experience that I really like. And of course, from the work that I do, and I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. What work do you do, right? Like for you, you are, actually, do you want to tell the viewers what exactly you do when it comes to content creation?
Absolutely. So my wife and I started doing photography and videography for weddings about 3 years ago. And we have done a lot of weddings. We love shooting. I love photo and video. Back then, I liked video more than I do photo, but now it's kind of switched. I like photo more than video. And I've become a much better editor today than I was before, and I really enjoy creating memories that people, couples, families get to look back on 10, 20, 30 years from now, and I want to always deliver high quality. So I make sure to shoot in the highest quality, get the best colors, and make sure that this is something that their children's children can look back on and say, wow, the quality is better now because we're in the future, but even back then it was amazing. And so my passion is shooting couples. I love it. And of course, we do graduations, parties, etc. But I found to, love doing that, and that's all I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I have the Mac, because it enables me to edit all that stuff really well. I could have kept I still have it, but I could have continued using my space gray 16-inch MacBook Air with the M1 Pro chip, because the M1 Pro is very, very capable. It's still a chip that can do all the work I needed to do, but it's not a smaller device, it's a bigger one. And to be honest, I felt for the catch, I really like this space black colorway.
It's very nice. It's very, very nice.
Not fully black, but it's really cool. And I've gotten to really like this 14-inch. Now when I'm home and if I want to watch content and I open my 16-inch, I think, why do I have this? But I don't want to sell it, because I'm the type of buyer who will sell it and be like, okay, I shouldn't have done that. So I'll just keep it and be happy with it.
No, that's great. So I think going back to what you use your Mac for, right? I think it makes a lot of sense for you, right? But for example, me as a digital marketing consultant, I'm literally creating presentations. I am creating a lot of reports, doing a lot of data analytics, and doing graphic design, light graphic design work, and also video editing, right? So for me, I also travel a lot. So for me, like, portability really matters. For me, it's about going to coffee shops and having that digital nomad life that is big for me. So I kind of want something that I can have multiple purposes for, right? So for an example, I also use this as an e-reader at times. In fact, I started my YouTube channel talking about digital reading. And I talked about Kindles, and I reviewed Kindles, and Kobos and Nooks, and it was all about digital reading. And here we are today talking about stuff beyond that, right? But what's interesting is that though I love my Kindle, and the iPad does not have an e-ink display, right? But what I do like is the fact that I can, if I'm on a flight or I'm at a coffee shop, I can literally just read books on this, right? Right away. I can just take it out of its keyboard, hold it, and the new M4 iPad Pro is so much thinner and lighter that it's even more comfortable, right? So I can just be swiping through pages, read books on it, not just books, even if I'm like browsing through on stuff on Safari and I'm reading articles, I don't always need to have it in this, I can just be holding it and be manipulating things with just my fingers, right? And so that's what I really, really like. It's as if I'm holding the content right there in my hands, right? And if I want to watch a movie, the Magic Keyboard is great as a stand also. And you don't need the Magic Keyboard. You can get the Smart Folio or any case, right? And it turns it into a nice stand, and you can watch movies. So sometimes I'll be like, this morning I was having breakfast and I was watching an episode of Suits, and while having breakfast, and it was nice watching that content on the screen, right? So for me, the iPad is an amazing content consumption device.
I agree.
Right? And it's also a great computer, right? So I feel like most people, and I don't say everyone, but I will say most, right? What are they doing even on a MacBook Air, right? They're browsing through emails. They're surfing the web, maybe going and using social media here and there, right? Watching a couple episodes here and there of their favorite show. Sending and receiving emails and text messages, doing Zoom calls. If you look at all those basic things, I feel like this device does it really, really, really well. Even for content creation, I'm a content creator, and I have no issues creating content on here, right? But I think once you start getting a little into the nitty-gritty stuff of like, okay, no, I need these certain softwares and applications to do my job and do it well, like you.
Exactly.
That's where those limitations can become a little bit of a hindrance, right? Just like with my wife, she's not a content creator, but she does do coding and programming. And unfortunately, based on what she's doing, she can't switch over to the iPad just yet. Now, if anyone here is watching and is a programmer, let me know if there are great solutions of doing programming and coding on this. There were rumors that Apple was going to introduce Xcode that's on a Mac and bring it to the iPad, but that hasn't happened yet. And I feel like the one thing that always bothers me is that there's always that big picture with the iPad, right? Apple's going to bring Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro. We heard that rumor for years. And then finally, was it last year that Apple finally brought it, right? So they brought it, but it's like, okay, after so many years, right? And I feel like Xcode will come eventually to the iPad, but when? It's always about, okay, how is it going to get more and more powerful? Whereas I guess, with you, you got everything from day one. You buy a Mac, everything is there.
And that's how I feel about products in general, especially this one. When I buy something to do my work on and to create, I don't want it to limit me.
Yeah.
I want me to be as creative as possible, and I want this machine to let me do everything I'm thinking of doing.
Right.
And the iPad just doesn't let me do that. As far as, I think the iPad is great. If I had one still, this is what I would use it for. To take it off, the keyboard, and show people my pictures, or watch content.
Yeah.
That's it. Other than that, nothing else I would use it for, because editing, I don't like it on there. But for content, consumption, it is amazing.
Yeah.
And then occasionally my wife likes Procreate.
Yeah.
And she asked me about it, like, oh, so you don't have an iPad anymore? I can't draw.
Yeah.
She never really drew anyway, but she did like 2 or 3 times, and she's like, oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me think, oh, well, this is an excuse to go get a different iPad.
Yeah.
But